My name is Dr. John Kennedy. I'm the Medical Director of Therapy Fertility, and I'm delighted today to be joined by Joanne McNally. Joanne's decided to come on board with us as our first ever ambassador in Therapy Fertility, and it's really great to have the opportunity to talk to her today about why she's done this and indeed what she's hoping to get out of all of this and what we might be able to do for her. So let's get into it. Joanne, you're very welcome.
Thank you, John.
So I guess first and foremost, Joanne, the question that we tend to ask most people when they come in here is, do you want to have children?
So...
Because it's really simple.
How long do you have?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, good answer.
I don't know. And I can't afford to stay unsure for much longer without doing something about it.
Yep.
I couldn't do anything now for the next, I'd say 2 years, definitely. So I'm looking maybe 3 years down the line, starting it.
Okay.
And I'm in my late 30s. Very late.
Very late 30s.
Too late. Too late for my liking.
And tell me, I know in the past you've kind of not necessarily explored these options, but maybe you're coming at it from a slightly different angle.
Yeah.
You did, was it in 2019 or 2017, Baby Haters?
The Baby Hater, the documentary.
I think that's great. I think it's a great title. I think... Look, I could talk about myself.
John, I love babies.
I don't think it's anything to do with hating babies. I wish there was more of a conversation about people who are taking ownership and agency and making a decision.
Yeah.
And being that decision. I think that's what's incredibly powerful.
The documentary came out of... So I was with the guy at the time who definitely didn't want kids.
Okay.
So the option was kind of not there for me if I was going to stay with him. And then I had to start thinking myself, do I want them, do I not want them? And some women, I'm so envious of people who are sure either way. They're like, I want them, I've always wanted them. And then there's other people who are like, no, not for me. I'm in limbo. And then someone actually said to me, have a child because you'll never regret having a child, but you might regret not having a child. And that's where the documentary started from. And I met loads of people who'd regretted having their children.
That's a bold statement. They never regret.
Yeah, one of them, she was like, I shouldn't have done it, it's not for me. Anyway, so that's where all that came
love
from.
them, you don't always like them. But, and do you think that's changed now?
Which?
Your approach?
Oh, yeah.
Attitudinally?
Big time. So I'm single, which now, of course, is there. That leaves another kind of question mark over the whole process because I don't know what I do on my own. These are all decisions. These are all decisions I want to be able to make. And if I don't do something now...
Okay, yeah. And what's kind of prompted that? Or do you know anybody else who's kind of gone through all of this? Or
I've met a couple of girls, like freezing your eggs. It's kind of what all the girls are doing now.
Yep. Yep.
You get married, you have a baby, or if you don't get married and you freeze your eggs.
And what's your understanding of freezing your eggs?
I mean, it's very limited.
Okay.
I know that you harvest them,
Uh-huh.
you pull them out of the body, and then I suppose just blast them with an ice torch.
I mean, broadly, yeah, I guess.
And then they live like baby icicles in a freezer somewhere. And then one day you snap them off, put them in the microwave at 500 watts for 3 minutes.
So 230, otherwise they come out.
That's my understanding of it. Is that not true?
It's mostly true, yeah. No, it's not wrong. I'd say it's not perhaps reflective of the whole experience, but it's definitely not wrong.
Do you know what, actually, it's so interesting because we throw around terms like, everyone's like, oh, it's grand, I'm just going to freeze my eggs. But actually, we don't know what we're talking about.
Exactly. And I think, I don't think that just goes true for people out in the community. I think it goes true for an awful lot of healthcare. And I think egg freezing's come on an awful lot in the last number of years. And it's become an available resource for a lot of people drawn. But I do think it has a tendency to overpromise and underdeliver.
Yeah.
I think we have to be really careful in how we talk to people and how we counsel them and what they want to get out of it and why they want to get those things
out
of it.
And also, I know that obviously they say like women's fertility kind of drops off the side of a cliff at 35.
I wouldn't say that. No, I would say that women tend to hold their fertility up until the age of approximately 34, 35. From 35 to 40 is when it starts to drop, and it starts to drop more precipitously, sharply, from 40 onwards.
40, yeah, okay. Well, I'm not 40.
But everybody's different. The average age that people run out of eggs at is about 44 years old, which surprises everybody.
Yeah.
But the quality and quantity do diminish substantially.
Where do they go?
Before that. Well, they're gone. You start off your life with your complement of eggs, and half of them die off before you're even born. So you start off your life and you've got I'll call it about 750,000 eggs per ovary, give or take. But obviously that's a very broad kind of range.
My period isn't me shedding an egg. That's me shedding the water of my uterus. I know nothing. It's so odd.
You do know a bit more than that. You do. So every month you grow a follicle which contains an egg and you release that egg. You release that, assuming you have a 28-day cycle, you'll release that egg at about day 14.
Okay.
And then for the back half of the cycle...
So release the egg, so the egg never comes back. It's released into the wild, it's gone.
Far more than that. It's much worse than that, but I'll come back to that.
Oh, Jesus.
So the egg gets released, the lining of the womb is growing and growing and growing, and for the back half of the cycle it's becoming receptive. So it can accept a fertilized egg, an embryo into it, and grow a pregnancy. If you don't get pregnant that month, the lining sheds, and that's your period, and the whole cycle starts over again.
Okay.
But every month you don't throw away one egg, you throw away loads of eggs. So you start off the month with your little antral follicles,
Yeah.
and they're all your potentials that month, and one of them is going to grow, sometimes maybe two, but they're all going to be lost.
You're making me sound very irresponsible.
But this is no, it's not you. It's
I'm just throwing them away.
Nature is the wasteful entity in this.
Yeah.
Every month, nature is throwing all these eggs away. So that's why eventually, everybody runs out.
Yeah.
Everybody runs to zero. So depending on how many eggs you start with, or depending on how many eggs you burn through every month, the rate at which you run out of eggs, the average age being 44, but of course some people are going to preserve eggs for longer, although they won't be of particularly high quality. Some people are going to run out earlier. I mean, there's unfortunate cases of people running out of eggs in their teenage years, in their early 20s. This can happen. Premature ovarian failure. It's
like it's like lads when they go bald at 18. It's the same. It's kind of the same thing.
Probably a bit worse.
The eggs or the baldness?
The eggs, I think, given a choice.
Yeah, no. Well, they can get hair transplants.
Exactly, or wigs.
And can you get egg transplants?
No, you can't. You can get eggs from alternative sources. And the holy grail of fertility is improving egg quality. Because we know that even in people who have diminished ovarian reserve, where apparently you're doing blood tests and scans and it doesn't look like there's any eggs left, you know there's eggs in there.
Yeah.
You just can't get them to respond. You can't get them to become mature. And if there was a way we could recruit and capture and improve the quality of those eggs, then everything in the fertility space would change overnight. So that is obviously ongoing work going into that, but there's nothing that's proven to be successful at all.
So what's the actual process? Because I know that you kind of juice me up.
So every month you start off with your antral follicles. All right, they're your little follicles in your ovary, and you're going to lose those eggs. So the purpose of something like egg freezing, or even IVF or ICSI or its variants, is to recruit and capture as many of those eggs that are going to be lost as you can. So you give medications, injections, little diabetic needles into your tummy, to push the normal hormones that stimulate the production of those eggs up to much higher levels. What's called supraphysiological levels, much higher than they would be normally. And it's the idea is to grow as many of those eggs as you can, and then take those eggs out with a small procedure. By doing that, and then freezing those eggs, you hold those eggs in time. So as you get older, so we all get older, and your egg quantity and quality drop, those eggs don't. They stay frozen.
Frozen?
Yes.
In a freezer?
In a freezer. In a tank of liquid nitrogen. I know, it's very cold.
God.
You know liquid nitrogen, the stuff?
It's so modern.
So, what's really cool about it is in the past, when we froze eggs, we used slow freezing techniques. And as you slow freeze eggs, you get ice crystal formation, because eggs are mostly water, just like we're all mostly water. And you get little cracks and shearing effects in the egg, which can be really damaging to it. It's like an ice cube in your freezer, when it comes out all cloudy and cracked. The newer freezing techniques are called vitrification. It's from the Latin, it means turning to glass. And it's snap freezing, and they get cold so quickly that you get no ice crystal formation, so you don't have that damaging effect. Okay. And in the past, you used to lose like half the eggs when you froze them. Now you don't. You maintain 80-90% of them.
Okay.
When you freeze them. So that's great.
And you know the juice, the hormones that you inject in, will they send me deranged? What are the impacts?
Were you deranged before? As the opening question there.
Yeah, will they be the same?
More deranged.
What's the impact of those?
Usually it's pretty well tolerated, but you can get irritation at the injection site. You can get abdominal bloating, because where your ovaries used to be pretty small, they tend to get an awful lot bigger because there's more follicles, more than the usual one that you'd have. And people can report mood swings, what we call emotional lability. So you can be a little bit up and down. Some people report an increased libido, some people report a decreased libido. But most people, when you ask them, how did you find the medications? They say the same thing. They go, really wasn't that bad.
Okay, yeah.
It's weird and it's surreal, and you've got a shelf in your fridge that's devoted to these medications, and you're looking at your clock and you're looking at what's going on. Listen, I need to be home at 7 or 8 in the evening to do my injections. You kind of set your clock or your whole life around that clock for that period of time, but it's only for about 10 to 14 days. So it's usually pretty well tolerated.
Interesting.
People don't mind it that much.
So door to door, so from A to B.
Probably about 3 weeks.
The whole process, 3 weeks.
Yeah, one round.
Including the extraction.
Yes. Yeah. So you generally, the way we work, you would go on tablets for about a week before the period. Then with your bleed, you'd start on in around that time, you'd start on the injections, and then you'd have a couple of scans to look at the growth of the follicles, and then we'd bring you in and we'd do the egg collection.
What's the story with therapy going into fertility? But also it makes sense because you've been freezing our faces with Botox, and now you're freezing our babies.
I haven't been, but so I've been working in obstetrics and gynecology since 2000, and purely in fertility for the last about 10 years, give or take. And this opportunity came along last year. I'm not the demographic for therapy users, so I knew very little about it actually going into it. I've not worked in aesthetics before, but from talking to the therapy family as a whole, what they wanted to accomplish with this very much aligned with what I wanted to do in this space. Fertility treatment in Ireland, it's kind of disgraceful. We're one of 3 developed countries in the world that don't offer a publicly funded IVF program.
Yeah.
We all know this, and we all know that's terrible. But I can't sort that out. You can't sort that out. That's coming from a bigger legislative space. So we know that fertility treatment is relatively inaccessible in Ireland, and it's inaccessible for one reason and one reason only, and that's cost. It's too damn expensive.
It's very expensive.
It's really expensive. So that's done 2 things. One, it's limited the number of people who can do fertility treatment, and 2, it's limited the number of times the people who are doing fertility treatment can do it. And it breaks your heart because it doesn't always work, and it doesn't always work the first time. So oftentimes it can take a few rounds. So what at the core of what we wanted to do here is we wanted to make this accessible and affordable. We want to make this streamlined and simple. And if you forgive the term, I've been using it with the team here. Brilliant. We want to be brilliant at what we do. We really want to stick to 4 or 5 different things and do them exceedingly well. I don't want to get lost in the weeds. I don't want to do too many overly complicated things. We keep our processes simple and allow more and more people to avail of fertility treatment who need it. Eventually, perhaps there may be public funding for fertility, and that would be great. That won't step on our toes at all. We very much support it. But until then, it's fantastic. Someplace people can go. And I think one of the concerns we had when we started was that by being more affordable, people would automatically think cheaper equals worse. That if you don't pay more, you're going to... And it just simply hasn't worked out that way at all. So far, early days, but so far our success rates are higher than I'd hoped, and I'd hoped for a lot because I'm greedy. And the patients are getting on really well. We're getting really strong feedback. The staff are working very well, and we've just subtracted out a lot of the noise that comes with fertility treatment, a lot of the misinformation, a lot of the add-ons. We've just pulled them all out and said, no, look, we're going to go with evidence-based, scientific care, good results, good experience, and accessibility. So it's working really well, and I hope long may it continue.
I think it's people want, like, when they want to try and have a child and they can't have it organically, they'll throw the house at it, and that's why they can afford to they can get away with taking the mick cost-wise.
There's a bit of that, and there's what the market will support sort of thing, and a little bit of macroeconomics in there. And yeah, you're right. People will try to find a way, and it's fine and okay if you're just denying yourself a summer holiday to do a cycle life. It's not so good if you're putting your career on hold, if you're remortgaging your house, if you have a child but you're sucking it out of their educational fund or something like that. That's not okay.
Yeah.
Look, this is a soapbox for me, but the World Health Organization quite correctly defines infertility or subfertility as a disease. Now, once we accept that that is true, once we accept that this is a medical disease, then it is frankly appalling that we aren't giving the support to people that they deserve.
I would think, because so many women my age and younger, actually, significantly younger, are all freezing the eggs. It's the new it's like an insurance for women like me.
So yeah, that's an expression I used a lot. An insurance policy against future subfertility.
An insurance policy against future dying alone.
Ooh, yeah.
You know what I mean? But so I was wondering, is the clinic, is the majority, or what? How is it just full of? I just feel like is it full of single women?
Well, it's not. No, the vast majority of people coming through the doors would still be women in heterosexual relationships because that's the broad demographic. But we are seeing more and more female couples come through. We're seeing plenty of single women come through contemplating either egg freezing or treatment with donor sperm. And then we're seeing members of the trans community in various stages of transitioning.
Treatment with a donor sperm?
No, with donor sperm.
Treatment with donor sperm.
So,
hit me.
You're single?
Yes, thank you.
In the generality, a woman who is single has two options: get pregnant now or try to preserve fertility for later.
Yes. Okay?
If you're going to get pregnant now and you don't have a partner, you're going to be using donor sperm. That's your option. If you're going to preserve your fertility, you're going to be looking at egg freezing.
Could I buy donor sperm, freeze it with my egg and store that?
Yes. And that's in some ways a really, really good idea. Because one of the kickers with egg freezing, this is the single biggest problem with egg freezing, in therapy fertility and whenever or wherever, is that you can't speak to the quality of the egg that you have frozen. You don't know if it's any good. The way you test an egg to see if it's good is you try to turn it into a person. And the first step on that journey is twinning it with some sperm to turn it into an embryo. To grow that embryo out for 5 or 6 days and then see what kind of embryo it is. So we know that not all follicles on the scan will produce eggs. Not all eggs will be mature. Not all mature eggs will fertilize. They won't all make it to day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5. And even on day 5, we know a high proportion of these embryos aren't chromosomally normal, won't give a baby.
How does anyone get pregnant at all? It sounds impossible.
Law of large numbers. A lot of people having a lot of sex all the time. That's what's happening.
Fair play to us.
Absolutely. Them anyway. So you need numbers, and then you're assessing the quality. So by freezing embryos, of course, an embryo is still not a guarantee of success. But if I had a really good-looking day 5 embryo that came from an egg of yours in the freezer, I would know that that would have maybe a 25 to 30% chance of giving you a baby. Doesn't sound high, but if I had a few of them, then that's a really good shot. The eggs, I can't say that about at all. However, if you're looking to preserve your fertility, you have to be honest about why you're doing that. Are you doing that because you're hoping to meet somebody, and then in the event that you, as a unit, decide to try to have a child, and it doesn't happen, you have a plan B. Because if the plan B is you have embryos frozen, then he, whomever he may be, may feel some kind of way about using embryos that he's got any input into.
Can I sell that?
Wait, put it up on Craigslist or something. I don't know if we'll get a buyer.
Can I put it up on Done Deal?
No is the short answer. It's not impossible to donate embryos in the future, but there are pretty strict regulations about the amount of screening you would need to have done in advance of creating those embryos to give them to somebody else.
Okay.
HIV, hepatitis, things like that. So it's not impossible, but essentially it's challenging.
And the harvesting, I can call it harvesting.
Yeah, no, it's a good term.
Yeah. So what is it? I feel like my gut says it's like getting a smear test, but except instead of scraping it in, you're scraping it, you're pushing it inside.
I don't think you know what a smear test is either, but that's beyond the scope of what we're going to go through today. So yeah,
are you knocked under? Is it like general anesthetic?
It's not a general anesthetic, and that's I think one of the big misconceptions. It's conscious sedation, so it's a combination of two medications, midazolam and morphine, and some anti-nausea medication in there as well sometimes. So you're zonked, you stop laying down memory, you don't really remember anything afterwards, and A lot of people sleep through the whole thing, but some people chat through the whole thing and don't actually go fully asleep at all. But we want to make sure people are comfortable. The procedure really only takes about 10-15 minutes.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty quick.
And what's the downtime for then after?
So what I would generally say to people is they can't be in work that day.
Yeah.
It's not a terrible idea if you can afford to take the next day off either, but after that you should bounce back pretty quickly.
Okay.
Yeah.
God, it seems like really low level.
So, yeah, it is. And I think we're inclined...
I mean the physical, like the impact seems low level.
And I've always been cautious about this, trying to sort of oversell that a little bit. What I've generally said to couples or women who are going through IVF is that you go into it thinking the first half of the cycle is going to be the hard part because you're injecting and all the rest and coming in for scans. And I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying that in an IVF cycle, it's a walk in the park compared to the back half of the cycle. Once you collect eggs, if you're doing egg freezing, you just freeze the eggs and you get an idea of how many eggs you have and then you decide what you're going to do with that information. And you're done. With IVF, that's when the real emotional journey begins. Waiting to see, will these eggs turn into embryos? Wait to see if you can get pregnant. And that's really hard. That's just the really tough part of the journey.
But the procedure itself is basically quicker than a pedicure.
How long is a pedicure?
40 minutes.
Oh, yes, faster than pedicure.
40. Mani-pedi would be 40,
2 to 3 egg collections.
Yeah.
Yes. No, it is quick. We try to be quick and efficient, and as I said, 10 to 15 minutes generally.
Cool.
I mean, if there's loads and loads of eggs, then obviously it can take a little bit longer, but it doesn't take that long. And usually it's pretty well tolerated.
Yeah. How many eggs do you need?
So that's a real piece of string question. And that's what's, I think, in advance when I spoke earlier about egg freezing, over-promising and under-delivering, I'm really talking about that, the expectational management. So, perfect eggs. I'm talking about a 23-year-old's perfect, pristine egg.
The Fabergé eggs.
The Fabergés, yes, the organic free-range version. What percentage chance do you think each egg has of giving you a baby under those circumstances?
I would say 90%.
90%, yeah. 3.2.
What?
This is the kick in the teeth. Each egg. We're mammals, but we don't have litters anymore. We don't have 10 babies every year, right? We have 2 or 3 in our whole lifetime.
Yeah.
Maybe more. But most eggs will not give a baby. So you've got to build all of that in. Now, if you're 20 years old and you have 20 eggs frozen, that's pretty good. You've got a 70 to 80% chance of having a baby with those eggs. It adds up, right?
Yeah.
Those 3% stack up. But as you get older, that number can drop a little bit. So if you're 42 years old...
I actually don't know. That's so wild.
Lower.
It's so hard to get pregnant, and then some people are going off and getting accidentally knocked up when they're leaving cert holiday.
I mean, it's Ireland, man. We're still taught that if he hangs his trousers at the end of the bed, you're going to get pregnant. And that's not necessarily the case.
I did hear if you do it standing up in the sea, you can't get pregnant.
There we are, I see.
Is that true? Myth busting with Dr. John.
No, you can get pregnant even if you're standing up in the sea.
God damn it, I was tricked.
That's not ideal. Yeah, he lied to me. Yeah,
I believed him.
Dear. So it's in terms of
where's the hope, John? Where's the hope?
This is it. Look, I mean, and this is the thing. When people come in and they're asking these questions, you do your testing, you see what your ovarian reserve is, you see, right, if I do 1 round of egg freezing, where am I going to be? If I do 2 rounds of egg freezing, where am I going to be? If I do 3 rounds of egg freezing, where am I going to be? And you're trying to manage expectations right at the front end. I've spoken about affordability, I've spoken about accessibility, and I believe we are. And I think if you're having your egg freezing, well, you're better off coming here than going anywhere else. It's cheaper, and I would argue better. But you need to have a very clear understanding, or as clear as we can give you, of where we think the value of this sits. And I don't think, and this is one of the things that's happening in the world, it's as simple as going, I can go one of 2 ways. I can either freeze my eggs or I can have a child now. You made reference to something at the start, that it's now time for you to make a decision about what, and I would think that's incredibly accurate. Without even looking at results, or looking at blood test results, or scan results, or anything like that. I would say that is true of anybody who's the other side of 35. It's time to be proactive. I'm a big fan of agency and ownership and being the change you want to see in the world, etc., etc. And I think that one of the misconceptions is that people come in thinking, I can just freeze my eggs. And it's rarely a case of it being as black and white as somebody saying, if you don't have a baby in the next year or two, you're not going to have a baby at all. It's very, very rarely that abrupt. But that's a really useful thought exercise. And I think it's something that more and more people should do.
Yeah. Would it be weird if I froze a baby and then called it Calippo?
I mean, no. Everybody names their embryos. People name their eggs. So, I mean...
Thanks for your support.
You wouldn't be the first. So it takes all kinds. Joanne, what are you hoping to achieve through this process, through fertility, potentially fertility testing, these conversations?
I think at the moment it's actually peace of mind.
Okay.
I'm trying to buy myself time until I know what I'm doing. I'm not in a position to have a baby now. I travel too much for work. And I'm slightly panicking.
Okay.
And I want to buy myself time. Insurance.
Okay.
That's what it is. And then I can make a decision in 2 years' time, 3 years' time to defrost.
What if you were told that wasn't an option?
If it's not an option, it's not an option. I'd be very disappointed.
Yeah.
But at least I'd know. Like,
okay.
I mean, that's not great. You don't want that news.
No, of course not.
But I'm also, I can be a bit unrealistic about my own aging process because, you know, our lifestyles are so different now. Like, I'm a woman in my late 30s. I'll just say I'm 38.
Yeah.
Cut. But I have the lifestyle of a woman in her 20s.
Yeah.
But the body of a man in his 50s.
True, okay.
So it's not lining up. Mentally, I feel young, but so I need to face up to the reality of my situation, basically. So if it is a case that maybe I need a bit of a kick up the ass, that you go, actually, you've got half a follicle and an olive in there, you need to do something.
And if you were told that, and the reason I ask isn't to try to be negative, it's because I think, well, yeah, don't ask a question unless you want to know the answer. And I think that's one of the fundamental tenets of fertility testing. But
the truth is that you're going to find that information out anyway.
Yes. Oh, I think it's a great idea.
Stage.
100%.
And I'd rather have someone just tell me than me be trying to have a baby for ages and then go, you know what I mean? And I think actually the best thing that could happen to you, for me, I think if you went, actually, I need the reality check of you just look at my insides and go, you need to get moving. Okay. You need to make a decision. You need to make a decision. Instead of me just being like, la, 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 la. And then I wake up at 55 alone. Covered in cat piss.
Okay, yeah. More cats. Always the solution.
Did you hear about your one breastfeeding her cat in the plane?
That was fake.
Wasn't, John?
It was fake.
No, the video was fake, but it actually happened.
Oh, the actual story happened.
That's a question. John, can you breastfeed a cat?
I was on the postnatal ward once.
Oh, God.
And I saw a man trying to breastfeed his newborn. That's a true story. I came down, I went to the nursery because I was checking on a baby, and I saw a dude.
But do you think that he was... Do you know the way men sometimes think that they empathise so much that they could actually lactate? Apparently you can... No, apparently if you pinch your nipple enough, you lactate. I read that. Is that true?
No. Oh. No.
I read if you stimulate your nipples enough, you'll lactate.
Me?
No, me.
Oh, well, yeah, me maybe get some milk. Yeah, but not me.
Because I've been flicking them solidly for 2 months.
And nothing. Well, God loves a trier. I mean, you know, I don't know if you worked as hard as you think. So, Joanne, you've had fertility testing done in the past.
Yes.
What was your takeaway from that at that time? What did they say to you? Or what was your read of what they said to you?
I think if it was an exam, I think I was like a C-.
Okay.
In fertility.
Okay.
Do you know what they said? They were like, you are at the lower level, but for your age, your eggs are your age. It's not you're. I think I was 33 at the time, and they're like, you have the eggs of a 33-year-old woman, but even that you've on the lower side. Follicles, eggs, whatever.
So was that, in your own words from earlier, kick up the arse for you, or was that like, oh no, that's fine?
Well, he wasn't saying
that's the peace of mind I wanted.
They just said you might want to start thinking about it.
Okay.
Do you think I started thinking about it?
I don't think you did.
No, I didn't.
No, but you were busy.
I parked it, but
Yeah.
they did say you do have like you could get pregnant.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's
I'm very positive person.
great. I like that.
Positive / deluded.
No. I think it's very positive. And
Yeah.
again, I think you have to look at things in context of having no history of infertility or subfertility, and you get pregnant tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's about options and choices and availability going forward. It's what's more interesting on there. So, Joanne, thank you very much for taking the time to have a chat. I think it was great. I think it was really informative. It was fun, which is important. And I'd just like to take the opportunity that if anybody is out there and they have any questions or if this has sparked any thoughts in their head about wanting to inform themselves about their fertility options or to get checked or to, have that kick up the ass, then please don't hesitate to get in touch with us. Log on, look at the website, get in touch with us, pick up the phone, and it's very easy to book in a consultation with one of our fertility nurses. It won't cost you a penny, and it might really be the movement you need to get things going.
And I'll be here serving drinks.
Absolutely.